This VOID Titan build devours every piece of content. If you're not using this build, you're missing out on the most overpowered setup Titans have ever had. Sentinel Shield is the only build I've had great success running that has no need for the prismatic subclass. By the time this video is over, you'll agree that Sentinel Shield handles every situation and content with ease.
It's crazy.
In case you missed the changes that Bungie made to roaming supers, let me give you a quick rundown. All roaming supers now gain 300% more energy from damaging enemies. Plus, roaming supers deal an additional 30 to 55% damage to champions. Sentinel Shield is a special case since it currently dishes out much more damage than intended due to a bug. Luckily for us, it's just icing on the top. The build doesn't need it to survive. But Bungie has already told the fan base that they're going to tone it down a bit. We'll see how it unfolds. They have been known to nerf things into the ground, so fans are praying for the best. Here's a quick rundown of what our Sentinel Shield build is capable of. Consistent healing through Devour, which doubles as grenade ability regen, multiple overshield activations, multiple ways to weaken enemies, boost to fireteam damage and survivability, as well as one weapon to handle each champion type. With these updates, Sentinel Shield doesn't just defend your team, it dominates the battlefield. Let's break down the subclass setup. Starting with our super, Sentinel Shield has powerful melee attacks that are destroying bosses at the moment. And even though they'll be toned down, it should still remain stronger than its pre-8.1.5 version. We want to take Towering Barricade for a similar reason as our super shield block. It allows us to provide more options for cover and distract enemies. Shield Throw is our melee of choice. The ability to hit multiple targets from a distance and build up an overshield up to 45 HP is pretty powerful. Suppression Grenade is always amazing thanks to its innate ability to stun overload champs. Offensive Bulwark provides a surprising amount of utility. While we have an overshield, it has the following effects: 300% increased grenade ability regen, 100% increased melee damage, and increases our melee lunge range. Besides all that, it gives us an extra shield throw during our super, which means a chance to keep our super active for even longer, stack up our overshield, and heal ourselves in the process. Controlled Demolition reads as follows: hitting a target with a void ability or volatile explosion makes them volatile. Further damage to a volatile target causes them to explode. Grants you and nearby allies health when volatile targets explode near you. Moving on to the fragments, we start with Echo of Undermining. Very simply, our Void Grenade now weakens any targets it comes into contact with. Echo of Harvest synergizes well with Undermining. Defeating weakened targets creates Orbs of Power and a Void Breach. Then, thanks to Echo of Starvation, these Orbs of Power and Void Breaches grant Devour. Kills while Devour is active, refreshes the health gain, grants grenade energy, and extends the duration of Devour. Arguably, this is the centerpiece of the build. It provides easy access to constant healing and grenade regen, which is pretty nuts in endgame content. Lastly, we take Echo of Persistence, which increases the duration of our Void Overshields and Devour. Taking these next few weapons will turn your Void Titan into an unrelenting force of destruction. In the kinetic slot, we've got Lost Signal.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Is what I'd like to say, but I feel like a broken record putting this amazing weapon into every single one of my builds. So for sake of variety, let's change it up to a different grenade launcher. Enter Tusk of the Boar. This is our go-to for stunning overload champions thanks to the seasonal artifact. I like to take mine with Hatchling for the extra ad clear, as well as Envious Assassin for the ability to add an extra grenade into the magazine. Plus, I'm a sucker for waveframes. I just really love the way they travel across the screen. Moving on to the energy slot, we've got Grid Skipper. This is a new rapid fire frame Void Pulse Rifle that just released in Act 2 of Revenant. This season, Pulse Rifles stun unstoppables, so this slots nicely into our setup. I highly recommend you grind Contest of Elders for one that'll drop with destabilizing rounds and Repulsor Brace. Infecting enemies with volatile and subsequently killing them provides you with an overshield of 45% HP. It's almost like having a second control demolition aspect. housed within this pulse rifle. Rounding out the weapons, I'm going to suggest we take Deterministic Chaos. This Void machine gun is incredibly strong against barrier champions thanks to its exotic perk. On top of that, every fourth shot weakens enemies and makes them volatile. It has everything our build needs, so much so that I'm willing to forego the tried and true power of Edge Transit.
Just kidding.
Every activity feels so much easier when you have the right artifact perks. From column 1, we grab Unstoppable Pulse Rifle, Overload Breach Loaded Grenade Launcher, and Authorized Mods Melee. In column 2, we go with Rapid Impacts and Fell the Revenant. And normally, Fell the Revenant grants an additional 3% damage against Scorn, but since we're wearing 2 Shadestalker armor pieces, we deal 9% extra damage. From column 3, we choose Total Carnage, Power from Pain, and the Thick of It. Total Carnage provides us with bonus damage resistance when finishing a powerful combatant. And since we wear 2 pieces of Shadestalker armor, like I just mentioned, that damage resistance boost increases and we heal for a portion of our health. Power from Pain gives us Devour anytime we kill weakened combatants. And the Thick of It gives us an armor charge whenever we rapidly defeat enemies while we're surrounded. Okay, let's go to column 4. Debilitating Wave unleashes a powerful Void energy blast when we use a finisher on an enemy. And Concussive Reload empowers our grenade launchers to weaken bosses and champions on hit. In the last column, Supernova causes our next source of Void damage to send out a weakening pulse after picking up a Void Breach. Serve Cold allows our Void Breaches to regen our melee energy now, alongside grenade energy. And that's it for the seasonal artifact. Alright, let's touch on Tonics. The only tonic I would recommend for this build would boost Debilitating Wave. That way, our finishers on enemies unleash a weakening wave to enemies. Honestly, the correct exotic armor piece to complement Sentinel Shield was the toughest part of build crafting this whole thing. First, I thought Mask of the Quiet One with its buffs was the way to go. Then I tried Ursa Furiosa, since it helps build super energy back faster while blocking. Even Second Chance was a strong contender because of its ability to stun barrier champions with shield throws. But once I swapped to Doomfang Pauldrons, the build went from good to busted. This is what it provides: 10 to 25% damage buff to void weapons depending on the number of stacks, extra super energy gain on powered melee kills, and when Sentinel Shield is active, defeating enemies with our melee refunds our shield throw. Overall, I'd say it's pretty damn good. Besides Doomfang, we want to wear at least 2 pieces of Shadestalker armor so that we maximize the perks Fell the Revenant and Total Carnage from our artifact. Once you've got those on, you want to focus your stats into Resilience and Strength. Follow those up with points into Discipline and Recovery. Pretty standard stuff. And as for individual mods, I'll show you what I like to run. In particular, I add as many melee mods and armor charges. That way I have a bonus to my Discipline and heal off of any finisher, even on regular enemies. So here's the general gameplay loop for this build. Use your special grenade launcher to start off the skirmish. Throw in your grenade as well to suppress and weaken enemies. Start killing off enemies with your pulse rifle. At this point, you should start collecting orbs of power and void breaches from any enemy kills. If they're a bit tougher, you can throw your shield out too in order to deal extra damage and gain an overshield. By that time, your grenade should be regenerating quite a bit, and once it's back, you can pretty much repeat the whole process. I personally like to save my heavy ammo for weakening bosses and stunning barrier champs, but feel free to use Deterministic Chaos if you want to cut through enemies faster or weaken them from a distance. As far as champions go, your primary weapon will stun overloads, your special weapon will stun unstoppables, and your power weapon will take care of barrier champs. Use your super whenever it's available, which should be very often thanks to the uptime of our melees and the constant volatile explosions. Whenever possible, use this combo on bosses to maximize your DPS. Light, then heavy attack in the air, followed by quick small jump light attacks over and over. And that's it. This is a pretty straightforward game plan, which means you can focus on your surroundings, teammates, or bonus objectives that much easier. I mentioned at the beginning of the video how this build doesn't utilize Prismatic in order to tackle hard content. But if you want to see a new prismatic build, then check out this video here where I use the roaming super buffs to Hammer of Soul to take on GMs and Contest of Elders with ease.